Right, we are live. Welcome everybody to another installment of my podcast. We're keeping this up. We're good with the consistency here. And today I quickly dropped my friend Ed Dyer a message. Ed, hello and welcome to the podcast. So
Hey man.
I asked Ed to come on because we're going to talk some different drift stuff. We've definitely we met through drifting. Actually, we met in Japan of all places, which is a really weird thing for two English guys to meet in Japan. But that is, that's how
we don't even live that far apart from each other. We met all the way over there.
Yeah. So I wanted to get him in. He's involved in some really interesting stuff to do with drifting, and not just that. He's involved in the UK drift community just like I am, and gets involved with events that we do together, which is really cool. So I wanted to grab you on, get your opinion of some stuff, and have a chit chat. But first off, can you introduce yourself and who you might be to the drift world?
I'm Edmard on most social media places. I'm kind of, I'd say, a little bit under the radar in the drift world, but I'm involved in little things here and there that I might pop up every now and then. You might see me, but really I've got an old 80s shitbox that I like to skid around, and that's the main aim. I just want to do as much of that as possible.
So he's underselling himself here because you're also heavily involved in the virtual drift championship, right?
I am, yeah.
I thought this would be interesting to talk to you because I mentioned this with Orjan in my first podcast. For someone that is obsessed with drifting, I never do virtual drifting. So I thought it'd be cool to have you on and like maybe get your points, because I don't look down at it at all. The way I see it though is if I have to spend X amount of thousands on like the really good setups that, you know, because I know it's like the levels of it, I'd rather just buy another drift car. Like that's kind of how I look at it. Like, so I thought I'd get you on and see how serious all that's getting. But first off, let's talk about how we met, because I think that's kind of interesting. We met at the Mecca for drift fans, didn't we? And you got to be way more involved in this world than I ever got to. I kind of came in a little bit too late, I feel.
I think I was like right at the end of when it was good, because nowadays, I mean, I suppose I might as well say I bought a JZX 100 out there, split it half and half.
Did we even say where? I don't think we told him where. We met at Ebisu in Japan. So carry on. Sorry, I just thought I just called it
so
Mecca,
easy because we both know what we're saying. But, I split a JZX 100 with my mate Sam, half and half, and the whole thing was $4.5 grand, and it was a really nice JZX 100 Mark II, which wasn't very nice by the time we were finished with it, but like you could just get that out there, and it had a bit of a tune up and all the bits you need to get going. Didn't need to do anything to it. It was ready to go for drifting. It had already been there for a couple of years, and you could just go out there and have an amazing time. Whereas nowadays, I think even missile cars out there that are already smashed up are more money than that. So, you know, I can really sympathize with everyone now. The barrier to entry is a lot higher.
Yeah. So Ebisu, it's quite a special place. Back when you got to do it, there was 5 circuits, and now it's 4, unless it's certain Matsuris where they get rid of all the mud on Minami. Am I right in saying that?
No, I don't. I've heard rumors that Minami is going to go back to being tarmac, possibly.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's only rumors of that now, but
because they did clear it for one event recently, right? I saw that they cleared it for an event.
I don't know, but it's like still not like proper, so I don't know. But I don't know what was going on. I think Kumakubo had some idea that rally was the future, and he was like, right, I'm going to turn that into a dirt stage. But Minami's still kind of there underneath it. So
it hasn't been destroyed. They haven't destroyed it. It's just kind of covered at the moment, I guess, to try and make a bit more money. And like everything, it's expensive to run anything. So I imagine like a place like Ebisu is. But like, how did you find out about it? Because for me, I found out basically through word of mouth when I got into drifting. It was like this like secret, like, oh man, there's this place like he drifts out at Ebisu, and it was like this like a badass kind of thing to do. If you were like a guy that had a car at Ebisu, people were like, oh, he's like in with drifting, like he's super in.
Knows what he's doing.
And I just always remember like going to the Matsuris, and there was that one fella, I can't remember who it was, who's got the JZX with all the like the lights inside of it. I don't know but he's like an
Oh,
old,
right.
and they were always like, yeah, he drifts out at Ebisu, and I was like, man, I want to drift out at Ebisu. This sounds
Oh,
cool.
Hayden. You talk about
Hayden,
Hayden
yeah,
Cruikshank.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I don't know
he's
him
funny.
personally, but I always remember that being like something
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
was mentioned heavily. Like, yeah, he drifts out of Ebisu, and like when I first got into drifting, like all I could think about was going. I was like, right, I really want to go and see this, and then I had this plan with YouTube where I was like, no one's done it yet. I could just go over, buy a car, and just get stuck in. And that was at like the start of 2000 and like mid 2016, I think I was like kind of toying with that idea because I knew there'd been clips and stuff posted, but no one had done the whole buying the car and post. And
Yeah.
then Mr. Adam LZ released his whole thing, and I was like, oh well, I'm never going to be able to compete with that. So let's just go over and see if it's worth the investment. So 2017, I booked to go, and I got there, and I was really ill. I remember being ill. I wasn't very well at
Yeah, I
all. But
remember
like,
you not
yeah,
feeling well. Yeah, yeah.
but like I met you and Sam and also Ian Blackett. I saw you three guys, and Ian Blackett recognized me, and he called me over, and that's when I met you. And I got to experience Ebisu as a passenger, and it was amazing. I want to get it what it was like for you. Like, how did you get into it? How did you find out about it? And what was the decision to go? Fuck it, with me and Sam, we're gonna go do this.
Yeah, I suppose I was into drifting from years and years before that because of the virtual stuff. I was playing Forza Motorsport with my mates, and we were all drifting on there. Back when that was the thing. And I suppose where I really got into like the Japanese stuff was by coincidence talking to people through Forza, and then some of us got banned off of the Forza forums,
Right.
and we ended up on Tumblr before
Oh yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
Tumblr went crazy. And it was just Tumblr had some accounts on it. They were all sharing all like Japanese magazine pictures and stuff. So I started getting more into things like that, trying to follow. Back then, there were like blogs, like people were running WordPress blogs. Like this guy, Nori Yarrow, he was a WordPress blog back then. And I was like looking at everything he was posting. And that's how I found out about Ebisu. So I knew about it for years. So it then becomes like a bucket list thing. You really want to go and do that. That looks amazing. Everyone has an amazing time. It's so free and open, and it's great support there. If you're thinking about wanting to go and do some driving in Japan, the barrier to entry is so high. It's really difficult because you've got to know people, and there's the whole language barrier and everything like that. But Ebisu, you've got a Scottish couple running a garage that can buy a car like in for you, and you can go and do it. And it's like the best place to do it as well. So it was amazing. And really all it took to get into it was to read through their guide on their website, powervehicles.com. You just go on there. They've got some instructions what you need to do. You send them a deposit to basically say you're serious, and then they email you when they get stock. But that's what it was like back then. Something came up. It looked like a good car. I said to my mate, like, send me some money. We'll get it bought.
Send me some money now, punk.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Book the flights, and then sort of just see where the wind took us from there. Try and get into it. But yeah, I'd heard about Ebisu way before because of all the blogs I've been browsing.
It's so cool that you were in on the ground floor type thing. For me, it was like with the Honda stuff, because I was so deep into the Honda stuff. Like when I went to Japan my first time, I didn't do anything other than chase Hondas around like that, and that's how I got in with the Kanjo lot, and I got that experience, and that's a whole story in itself. That was absolutely insane. But then obviously I took the drift pill, and I took it, and I was like, oh, just see what this is like. And then all of a sudden it's taken over my whole life, and I'm like, oh dear, I'm a little bit deep here. Like, and I had planned to before I came out on that 2017 trip, I'd left it way too late, but I didn't realize how the demand for cars out there even at that time. And I messaged Andy at Power Vehicles, and I said, like, have I left it too late to get a car for Matsuri? And he just laughed at me, and he was like, yeah. he was like, bro, you need to like message me like in January for this sort of time of day. And I was like, okay, like noted. I'll come over anyway and just see if I feel like it's worth the investment. Because at the time I had enough money for like a fairly decent car. I was like, all right, like, I'm not spending on anything, been saving a long time. I know this is what I want to do. Like, so let's come and check it out. Met you guys over there. I had that absolute nightmare with that Subaru Impreza. Do you remember that Impreza I'd rented, and I had
Oh
you come
man,
out and try and
yeah.
help me? Like, God, it was an absolute nightmare. But actually, at Ebisu, when I met you, I think when I met you and Sam and like a couple of other English speaking people, and I was like, oh, I could like actually do this. This is like doable as a solo because you
Ebisu
just
is
meet
just so
so many
attainable,
people. Yeah, and
so good.
I met one of the night ride guys out there. Is his name? Oh, I can't remember. It's Goomba. Is that how you say his name? Gooba?
Oh, Gobbler.
Gobbler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
sorry, I see him all the
He's
time
a
now.
good person for Europeans as well. Gobbler
Yeah,
does like tours out there,
yeah. So
so
this is something he's
it's
doing
so
now, and
good.
he does it with Night Ride. Like you can see it with Night Ride what he's done. And I met him out there, and then he come up to me in Germany this year, and he was like, "You don't remember me, do you?" I was like, "Bro, you need to like nudge my brain because like I meet so many people.
Yeah,
It's nothing
see
like."
too many faces.
Yeah, and he was like, I'm Goldblatt, I met you over in Ebisu. I was like, oh shit. And that's the thing though, you just meet so many people. I was just stood on the side of the track at like 3 a.m. watching everyone go around, and I was like getting introduced to by new people, and they're like, what are you here for? Who are you here with? And I was like, just on my own, like just checking it out. Like I really want a car here. And trust me, that what hasn't gone away. That feeling of
It's yeah, I
like
can
wanting the
understand.
car is heavy, but like you were saying, the price of everything has gone crazy. Although I do know of someone that got a pretty decent chaser for 6 grand recently, so I assume there are still deals to be had out there. But
You got to
I'd like,
know. You got to
yeah,
be in with it. Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
like to ask you because you've done it. What do you reckon each trip cost you?
It's probably. I think I was budgeting back then without thinking about the car cost.
Mm.
Probably around 2 grand.
Oh, so it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like,
Yeah, because really, like I was literally getting there, going straight to Ebisu,
yeah,
and we stayed in a nice because we knew um this guy called Rockass. Did you meet Rockass when you went there? He
dude,
drove like a yeah. Anyway,
I met so many people, like my brain, and I didn't feel very well at the same time. Like I said, I wasn't very well, so I was a bit like floaty throughout my whole trip,
yeah,
really.
you were
But
a
like,
bit dazed looking
yeah,
around. But yeah,
typical.
Rockass knew he had gone a few years before that. He was sort of our introduction into getting it done properly as well. He helped us out with our first trip. And he knows the guy who runs the channel Shout Rogue,
Right?
which is like a really cool YouTube of there's just this guy with a really awesome JZX who's made cool videos of him driving for years. Because he knows him, he was able to book us like a Japanese only onsen hotel sort of place. So it's like really good value because there's like a onsen village just up the hill from
Yeah.
Ebisu. Really good place to
I
stay.
think I stayed up in that village because the
It's really
place I
good.
stayed at was pure Japanese, like zero Western at
Was
all.
there like a family mart just across for the
No,
crossroads?
so I kind of stayed in like this like a little
I think you were
off road.
further up. I think you were
Maybe,
further up
yeah.
the hill. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
because I stayed in like this little cutout. It was like a little quarry almost, like a natural quarry. And it was
Oh,
like
okay.
in down a little tiny road, and it was such a beautiful, honestly, it was so beautiful. Like I'd go back there in a heartbeat. I'd have to figure out where the heck it was, but like and not forget my UK adapter this time for any power. But yeah, it was but yeah, carry on, man. Sorry. Yeah, you were saying.
So
So
yeah,
you stayed in the little Japanese hotel.
yeah, and they were super lovely, and it's like a traditional place with tatami mats on the floor and stuff like that. Um, and they're really lovely. Well, the years before that, I stayed in the Power Vehicles house, which they don't do anymore. But that's basically it's like staying in a hostel. So you get it's like the cheapest place to stay.
Yeah.
So you know it's that because that's your main thing is your cost of staying somewhere and your tires and general stuff for the car. But
Yeah.
other than that, there's no other expense really. So it's it's actually a really affordable trip if that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want to do other stuff and rent a car and go places.
Yeah. How did you get there if you didn't rent a car? Were you just getting picked up by people you knew? Like, because there's no
There's two
direct line, is there?
options that you can get a train up.
Right.
It's definitely possible. You get a train up to Nihon Matsu, or you just rent a car from wherever you come in and you drive up. I think a lot of guys they'll get a train up and they'll rent a car when they're there. I mean, like I did a trip in 2017 by myself, and I rented a little K car. And then when I got there, I made friends with the guys from New Zealand, and then I hopped in their K car every day.
Right.
So I filled that K car up once for the
Right.
whole trip. So it was super cheap. and like the K cars to rent are pretty cheap as well.
Yeah.
So
I think this is something I really need to look into, and I don't know whether I should drop Andy a message. I just don't want to waste anybody's time. Do you know what I mean when I say that? I don't want to look like a dreamer.
Andy is not a man with a lot of time.
No,
and he
so
doesn't have a lot of time for time wasters either.
no, so I don't want to like waste his time. I'd rather maybe just drop him a message and be like, realistically, what price are we looking at for a half decent car? Like, it doesn't have to be a show winner, just one that is going to be reliable at drifting. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because if trips are only, I mean, they're probably a bit more now with cost of everything going up, but like, let's say it's $2 to $3 grand a trip. I mean, that's definitely doable at least once a year. I mean, I mean,
do you know what flights are like now? Because when I was doing it, they were like 450 quid.
But I have so many air miles that I might be able to use them with an airline. Like, the problem is I don't think Virgin, which is who I have my air miles with, fly to Japan anymore. So I need to have a little look.
British Airways.
Yeah, I need to have a little look. But I flew in like the World Traveller Plus or something. It's like economy with extra legroom when I flew. Right. And like, it was fine. Like, it was nice. Like, it was just having the extra legroom worked, and it was only like £100 more each way. And I was like,
yeah, I was cheaping out every opportunity I got. So I flew like a random Chinese airline one time, a Russian airline another time. It was just whatever was cheapest.
And did you, when you were out there, did you buy a helmet, or did you take one with you each time you went?
Took one with me.
You
still got it now.
Yeah, cool. I definitely think it's something that I'd like to do. It's like that is like my goal. Like, if you know you've got like the little goals, like, and I know it's achievable just with money, so I could sell something and just go and do it. But I'm like, I'd like it to coexist with everything else that I'm doing. The trips that I've been making over the last few years have all cost me around £2,000 to £3,000, and even that's just like driving up to Scotland for Dory Fest, because I live so far away, and I always stay in a hotel because I've got a bad back, so I'm not freaking sleeping in my car or anything, you know, to then go and drifting. I think that's just unfortunate. One of the things I have to sacrifice is I have to spend money on hotels. Whereas I would quite happily if I didn't wake up feeling like a paralyzed. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a part of the problem, but it's all, and also when you're traveling with a lot of camera gear, I don't really want to leave it anywhere. I like putting it in a locked room. Do you know what I mean? It's just like little things like that. It's like, well, I just got to do that. But Ebisu is the dream. When I was there, I was like borderline depressed because I was watching all you lot do it, and like I went out with you and had some laps with you on North Course, and I was just like, man, this is something I want to do so much. Like, I was so annoyed that I couldn't join in with everybody. Do you know what I mean?
I love watching that video every now and then. Every now and then I'll search up. It's like it pops up automatically when I type YouTube. If I type in Adam Ivel, it wants to say Ebisu at the end.
Because that video got loads of views.
It's so cool.
Check while we're chatting, because let me just check. That video did so well, and it was literally just me walking around, just being excited about things.
When I gave you that little tour of the place and everything, that was so cool. We saw the lady with the penguin. Boy.
30k views, and then I did the G1 GP video as well, and they got 13k. Man, my YouTube used to be popping, boy. It used to be good, man. But that video was absolutely insane, man. I always watch it back, and I'm just like, wow, this is so. And like, I tell you, something else I really enjoyed. It was me and you. We sat in that restaurant that overlooked Minami, and we just had like spaghetti bolognese or something like that, and it was just so cool, just sitting and chatting and like watching the cars go drifting, and it was just like, wow,
such a good spot.
I feel like genuinely, if you are into drifting, a holiday including to Japan, including a trip to Ebisu, is a must. Like for a Matsuri, because that's where like it's super fun, and like it's just everyone from all over the world just kind of congregates to this one place. And like, I know obviously since it's got more popular, well, drifting has got more popular. And I could never turn my nose up at this, because I guess a lot of people will see me as a YouTuber first and everything else second, but I am a car guy above everything else. I always have said, like, what you see on my YouTube would be happening, whether there's cameras involved or not. Like, I've always had too many cars. This is always where I've spent my money and done these silly trips, like, and I've always loved it. And I feel like the Ebisu Matsuri is so good. Are you all right, dog? Sorry, my neighbours are making loads of noise outside. My microphone is probably not picking it up, and it's like driving the dog nuts.
It's doing all right. Your microphone is good.
Yeah, cool. So, but yeah, it was absolutely magic, and like getting that tour. You can see how ill I am in this video. You can just see I'm like hanging on for dear life. But I was just like, Oh yeah,
So that,
Adam.
and you're not a great passenger either.
No,
And
I'm terrible
you had
passenger.
Sam's helmet on,
Yeah,
which
his
was
tiny
definitely
little
too
pea
small.
head. Yeah. Well, I got no, it was wicked, and I went out with old Ian Blackett in his 180 SX that was held
That was
together with hopes
sketchy.
and dreams.
Yeah.
But it did a skid, and we had a really good time in it. But a lot of the fun thing for me that I remember on that trip was just seeing some of the cars, like that AE86, that blue one that has been around forever, that's still got stickers on from like 25 years ago, and like, oh, it was just so magic just to witness it more than anything. And
Yeah,
I
you
feel,
see some amazing stuff there. I remember one time I was there, and it's just a normal day because we're there either side of Matsuri.
yeah,
When
yeah,
Matsuri's not happening, they're just normal days of the week.
yeah.
Um, and I was there one time, and bloody Koguchi came up to North Course. He's like OG D1 driver, and he's just there doing backies on North Course
Yeah.
in a really awesome white S14. I remember he's in one of the Lone Star Drift videos.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of
And
the
I
long
think,
ones they did.
yeah, one of those. And I'm pretty sure Aaron didn't recognize who it was. He's just
Right.
like, yeah, it's just some Japanese guy here doing skids
Oh
with us.
man.
But I was like sitting there going, Koguchi, oh my god.
So even on my screen up here, sorry to interrupt you, like even on my screen up here, I've just still got my Adam Ebisu searching, but I've scrolled down and seeing some of LZ's videos in like him there from 4 months ago. I'm like, that dude lives the dream, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he really does. Like, he's got the. I think that's why so many people are probably negative about him, is because he's cracked the code. He's like made it happen. Like, no matter what you think about him, he's living the dream we all probably want, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I feel
the
like
full.
he's definitely developed a lot as a person as well. Because I went there at the same time he did for his first trip, and I remember back then he wasn't as informed, or he didn't know much about. Like, I remember we were sat in there. One of the times we were staying in the Drifters Lodge all together, and we were sat in their room, and I was giving Aaron Losey some footage, and we were talking about engines, and he was getting RBs and JZs mixed up.
Yeah.
And it's like he was still getting into it, but he was so keen to know.
Yeah.
And so wanting to learn all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was just getting into it, and he just got the car there, and you know, he hadn't been drifting for that long by that point. What was that, 2017 or something?
I think it was 26 at the start of 2017 that maybe he got. I don't know, because like
I think it
like
was.
with Adam, I've known him a long time. Like, I met him at Ebisu. That was the first place I ever met LZ as well. And he was very polite, very courteous to me, and he was very thankful that I was not rude to him with the camera. I think a lot of people just expect him to help blow up them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I just went up, said like, "Do you mind fucking being in my video?" A lot of people are asking. I don't really mind. Like, it's up to you. And he come over and found me a little bit later when he wasn't busy, and just said, "Yo, let's see that video, man." And he was like super nice, and we've always just stayed a little bit in touch.
Yeah, it's really chill.
Like, I don't harass him, and I think that he's the sort of guy as well that's very, very like gets really obsessive with stuff. Obviously, like he was like pro BMX, right? Had all the sponsor deals in that, and he was like, "Do you know what? I want to go do drifting. This is way more fun." And like now he is like one of the big names in the drift world. You know, you got to take your hat off to him, and you know, he is. I think he, you know, but like everyone, he had to learn. Everyone has to learn. I come from Hondas. And when I come into Hondas and learn about all the fucking rear wheel drive stuff, I was like, what is this? Like S14, S15, PS13. There's so many different 13s. What's going on? Do you know what I mean? I was like,
yeah.
You know, and I'm still learning now. Like, you know, it's like, oh, this one, the SIL 80, come with this, and they come with this type of. I'm like, bro, I don't
In
care.
reality, you're fine just calling them all Sylvias, and everyone gets hung up on what number they are. They're just nerds. It doesn't matter really.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So it's just as long the way I kind of see it, as long as people are enjoying it, it doesn't.
Like, who's anyone to judge?
Exactly.
But I do think it's a good thing that like over in Ireland, Dave's implemented this no missile rule, because
I mean, I've spoken about this at length with Jack Shanahan, and we both agreed it was a good thing, because not, you know, sometimes like when you go to Ebisu, okay, I think you kind of expect to see some smashed up cars there, because like but they've all got to be safe now, right? They have a no missile rule as well, right? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, it's developed over time. It's basically when something happens there, they make a rule to, like, if something bad enough happens, they'll make a rule to sort it out afterwards. And that's just the way it's gone over the years.
And have you now sold your car over there?
Yes.
And was it a sad day?
No, because I got loads of money. Despite the fact it was smashed to pieces, I
Yeah.
still sold it for more than I bought it for. So
Did you? Yeah. So you've
yeah,
had like years of drifting, and then you still got paid back for it, man. That's so
exactly.
cool.
It was COVID. I couldn't afford the storage. I was still paying storage for it every month during COVID. It was crazy. So I sold it to the guy who runs Buy Now Japan. If anyone knows
Cool.
that. So if anyone follows Buy Now Japan, they've seen him in a smashed up black JZX. That's my old car.
Yeah, and I've been in that car. I got scared out of my wits in that thing. But
you're in a standard seat. Holding on for dear life.
I think I held on so hard I cut off the blood circulation of my fingers. Honestly, it was so scary. But like, that's just me being a bad passenger, man. When you were over there, did you get to drive with many big names?
Trying to think. I probably did.
Because I know loads of like pro drivers have cars over there, right? That they'd kind of just fly in and go and practice.
I'd say probably the biggest name is you seen where they do all like the trains of cars, loads of them. I did a big drift train with Frederick Asbo and a bunch of other dudes. That's probably one of the highlights. That was really fun.
Awesome. That at the end of the weekend where everyone's doing them big trains over the hill, down and in front of the crowd. Oh man, that was where I was like, this is where I would love to be. But I feel like my driving back then, it would have obviously progressed fast because out there you get so much seat time.
The first trip for me was my first proper drifting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Have you heard of drift limits in the UK?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
I did.
They do like the MX5 stuff, right?
Yeah, I did an experience day there, and then I helped them with a couple of instructor days. Like I was doing some instructing, even though I'd never done it before.
Right.
And then I went to Ebisu, and that was it. That's me starting drifting.
Yeah.
So my first trip there, I was learning handbrake entries on North Course. Like
that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I feel like now I think now would be a good time for me to buy a car and go.
It's one of those things. The sooner you do it, the easier it's going to be because it's just going to keep getting harder and harder to do.
One of the reasons I think it'd be a good idea now is obviously my level of driving is so much better than it was back in 2017. True. I feel like I am a fairly good level now of driver. I feel like I can pretty much drive with anybody, and I could set good lines if I need it. And I'm getting used to chasing. You know, it's kind of like the ever growing escalation of yourself. You know, when you're doing these driftings, because like it is all a personal thing, and that's what always winds me up when people go, "Well, I'm better than you." I'm like, good for you, you prick. I'm still learning.
Yeah, well done.
I live 10.5 hours away from the nearest drift track that is a regular thing. Like, give me a break. So I was like, I've been looking at it. I can't afford it right now. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't think I could justify the money going over there. But I think in the future, if everything can go to plan and work and stay good, and I can grow socials a little bit more, because I've been slacking on all this sort of stuff over the last few years. And with Drift Masters, if I can grow in that as well, obviously you can stay in that role and, you know, just do more presenting and do more stuff on the side, earn more money. I'm happy to work for money. People always kind of, you know, knock me for the wrong things sometimes, I think, but I do put in the hours where it's needed. Yeah. But I think that right now would be a good time for me to go and actually be able to join in. All I'd have to do is do a few days just learning the circuits, learning the lines, and then I can just go and chase people and like have people chase me. And it's definitely on the list of things that if life goes okay, I'd like to do it. But I'm away so much, man. Like I am away so much. Over the next 2 months, I'm here for like a week and a half. Do you know what I mean? So it makes it like really difficult to like. It makes it really difficult to go, hey, I can spend a week and a half in Japan now, when I'm away all the time with Drift Masters, all the time with my personal drifting, away with my real work that pays my bills. And then obviously a family holiday in between and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, got to pick your battles sometimes, right? And I just don't know if the money would be good tied up out there, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't consider it one day.
Might be worth seeing. There's a company out there now called SideX.
Is this the rental cars?
I think they do rental stuff.
Right. Okay.
I haven't paid attention much to how they've grown, but I think they're starting to do that now. They started out as a really expensive Japanese tour guide sort of thing, and you get to drive at Ebisu at the end.
Right.
But it was like literally all expenses covered. You pay once, and you're taken all around Japan, and then you do like a week at Ebisu. It's incredible.
Sounds good.
But I think they've got like a little fleet of cars there now, and they can do stuff.
Cool.
It's run like one of the guys who helps run it is ex Power Vehicles mechanic and everything.
Okay, cool.
Fausto. He's pro driver as well now. He's
Oh,
flipping killing it. He's so cool. He's a
awesome.
really good guy as well. So I definitely recommend those guys. They're awesome.
Cool, man. I think we'll have to look into it, and maybe one day. I mean, I never like to get too ahead of myself and be like, when my podcast blows up and I'm making like, because I don't.
Yeah.
I've always kind of looked at drifting as just this thing that I love doing, and like I always like feel really awkward asking for money through it because like I enjoy the sport so much, and like
Yeah.
you know, I think we just have to wait and see. I feel like life, you never know what's in store, right? Like 10 years ago, if you'd have told me I'd be working with Drift Masters, I'd have laughed at you, been like, I don't even want to work in drifting. Leave me alone. I don't care about drifting. I just like Hondas. Do you know what I mean? And now I'm like,
Yeah.
I just love drifting. This is the best thing in the world. All I want to do is drift. Like, so
I can sympathise with that. With the judging stuff I've done as well. It's like, you know, I want to just see the success of it more than anything.
Yeah,
So
I want more people to enjoy drifting because the bigger it gets, the more, you know, more eyes on, the more the drivers will learn. Like, you know, I'm a big advocate of the drivers earning their way in this because, like, I know how hard it is for them. Like, it'd be great if they could get paid big money one day, you know, because the financial strain just to go do a skid is.
I think that's motorsport in general.
Yeah,
I mean, think about
it is.
Like GT3 cars and stuff.
But then boys already get the sponsors. Them boys already have the easier option for sponsors, I feel.
There's the pro drivers, but then there's also the gentleman drivers who are actually paying for everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of that in motorsport. I think there's a certain amount of that they're probably not going to escape. But
But I don't care about them guys. I just want to get the drifters paid.
I agree with you. It's just to try and see our sport grow into something profitable is the dream.
It'd be great for everybody involved, I feel. But like I said, I think the Ebisu thing is a good dream to have. It's always one like where you're like, do I need to go out and spend £200 tonight on a night out with the boys, or do I stay in and save that £200? Like that's kind of how I've kind of been looking at it since I've kind of grown up, as per se. And I don't know, I just love it, man. I just love it. You mentioned some judging. Now you do judging in Virtual Drift Championship.
Yeah.
And you are still doing that now.
Yeah, I've been doing that for, I think it's about 5 years now. It's sort of all a blur. But yeah, it's just one day they put out a thing, they needed a new judge, did a tryout and not look back.
Yeah, so tell me more about this virtual drifting. Like, how big of a deal is it now? Because that
Reese, pretty good deal.
Reese got to do the winner, right? Reese, is it? I don't want to say his last name.
Reese Tatterson.
Tatterson, that's it. I was going to say Tatting Stones, Tatterston. So like he got to do the video with Peter Vicek, our DMEC 2-time champion over the last few years, in his S15, and it was great, and it got huge views for the championship, like 5 million views on that video. Got huge. So there's obviously people interested. Like that's kind of, just because I'm not interested, I understand that it doesn't mean that no one is. Does that make sense? So I'm I'm very curious about it, and if there was a fast way to get okay at it, I'd definitely give it a go. But
the trouble is you're coming from real life into it, which is the hardest thing to do. Like
say that again. I want to hear that again.
The hardest thing is to have got used to drifting in real life and then try it virtually. Because like for me, I've been drifting. I started on a little controller, then I got a Microsoft wheel that only did this,
right?
And then I started trying to do like R Factor sort of things on a crappy little Logitech, and I developed over years, and now I can sit down in my rig next to me, VR headset on, and smash Mayhem like that. It's just easy peasy. But it's something that I've been doing for like, I don't know, 15 years more. So it's, it's hard for me to say like, oh yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
Because it developed to that point. And I think it's also a lot harder for everyone now who's trying to do it and be competitive when, you've got to get a direct drive wheel and there's all this stuff that you've got to get for it as well. Whereas like people like me, I've had my rig for, I think 10 years now. I've had the same setup. So it's like, and I slowly developed that setup, bought little bits here and there, which I bought over those 10 years. So it's, it's a lot bitty and smaller barrier to entry. Yeah.
So I have some questions then, because this virtual drift stuff really does intrigue me. Right, okay. So and I don't want anybody that is into virtual drift to think that I am an asshole and I look down on it or anything, because I think it's, if someone is into something, I'm interested. I'm not like, why are you interested? I'm just curious. It's just like, because this is how I've tended to find my favorite things in life. I've gone, well, that guy over there looks like he's having fun. Like, tell me about that. Like, what's the deal? Like, it's like weird stuff like golf. Like, a few of my friends loved golf, and I was like, why? It looks so boring. And they were like, why don't you come out with us? And I got invited out and to a couple. Well, I got invited along to a guy's like birthday. Every year they all go away and get pissed up and play a load of golf. So I was like, even if I hate the golf, at least I can just get wasted, right? And it doesn't matter about the rest of the fucking day. And I had a few games before that, and I was with my cousin, and I was like, do you know what? Like, it's annoying me that I'm not good at this, and I want to learn more about it. Like, and I was like, they all had a great time doing it, so I just opened my mind to it instead of being like, no, I'm not doing that. Jeremy Clarkson said golfing's lame. I'm not doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, I'm gonna give it a go. So, like, the virtual drift stuff, it is like I bought the wheel and I bought the handbrake, and I really struggle with it, and I have a very short attention span, so I think that's probably why I'm rubbish. But like, you explained you got to it, but like, it's quite a big thing now. There's a huge market for it, right? And in virtual drift, do you win money? Like, how is it judged? Like, is it similar to real drift? Like, tell me about this thing.
The way that we set up all our rules and everything, apart from rules that determine that, like, about the cars, because obviously it's a virtual car, so you've got to have different rules about that. But all the judging criteria and everything is basically Drift Masters is the template. And we base it off of that. We've got a few little differences. Like, I think our qualifying judging, like the way we put our numbers in for the qualifying, we all score out of 100, all three judges, and then we average that. So it's a little bit different. But that's just personal preference. Like, really, when it comes down to running the event and how you judge it and everything, it's exactly the same as real life. You're still looking at the cars, and they're still behaving in a very realistic way, especially with how good the simulators are now. And yeah, there's a whole community of people that help build realistic pro drift cars, custom made for, like, all of our drivers in Virtual Drift Championship have a custom made car. It's got little bits that they want done on it. You get like 3D modelers like making things for them and stuff like that. And yeah, everyone, we have like a way of getting in that you've got to go through another series. So we've got a couple of series that you can go to. That
sounds exactly like Drift Masters, like.
Yeah. So you have to score highly in those series, as long as you're not already, because some of the pros from our series are in them as well. Yeah, you got to score highly, and then you can get into ours. And we also have a program where, like, if you're an actual pro drifter in real life, then you can just write to us and say, hey, I'm a Formula D driver, can I join? That's how you get, like, Connor Shanahan. He joined us for a season.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did he get on?
A few rounds. He's really good.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
But he was doing it before as well, wasn't
he? He does a lot of practicing on the sims as well, I think. I've only seen that on his Instagram. I'm actually going to have a conversation with him over the next couple of days, hopefully. So I'll quiz him on all of this stuff as well. But I got another question, actually, before we go. If you are just a virtual drifter, right, and you've never done any real drifting, how would it feel to then have to go up against Connor? Or would you feel quite confident in knowing, like, hey, he's coming into my world now, like, you know, I know he does it on the big stage in front of millions of people every week, well, every event. But, you know, here's Adam Ivel trying to be the VDC champion. Like, would I be like, I'm going for Connor? Would I be like, oh man, how am I going to compete with this man? Like, he's like the Donny, you know?
I suppose it's a real mixed bag, because we've had Peter Wojcik on as well, and you've got, like, Peter's not done a lot of it. Connor's done a lot of it. Connor was a serious competitor.
Yeah.
And Peter barely qualifies.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so when you know you're going up against them, then that probably sets the standard for what sort of attitude you're going to take towards it. But a lot of our drivers have been doing it for a very long time, so, you know, they'll get nervous and stuff, but they know what they're doing. And I think that's probably a difference between virtual and real. It's the time you can put into it is so high that you can really get over those kinds of things and really get down to the minutiae of what makes a good run.
Yeah.
And they really perfect it. Like, the difference from the best driver to the worst driver in VDC is like nothing. It's like if the Formula One grid was all separated by a tenth of a second.
Right. Okay. It's that
Everyone,
competitive of a
everyone
series.
is amazing. Yeah.
That's really cool. Like, it's just something that it intrigues me, but I have no interest in trying. I know it's such a weird. Does that make sense? It's such a weird thing.
I wouldn't do competitive driving. I wouldn't do that.
like
I just
I
enjoy
think
getting
it's
on and
so
having fun.
cool. Look, it's like a whole world online that just is virtual drifting, and it's like this super thing. So where can people watch that if they want to watch it? Like, where does that stream? Like, what
We do YouTube. So
YouTube, yeah.
just put in Virtual Drift Championship on YouTube.
Okay.
And we do live streams. Our man Craig runs a live stream. He's amazing. I'd say we've probably got the best live stream of any of the virtual series. He does a really, really good job. And it's really fast paced because we're virtual. There's not a lot of things that can hold us up.
Yeah.
Someone crashes their car, they press a button, they're back in the pits.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait for a red flag or anything like that.
Yeah.
So our whole round happens all at once. We do it all in an evening. And we do qualifying and the top 32. And it's like bang, 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 action. So it's actually a pretty good watch, I'd say.
Cool. Oh, how often do you do these rounds? How many rounds are there a season?
6 to 8. Between 6 and 8. I think we're going to stick with 6 because it just fits in nicely because we're trying to avoid any real life stuff because a lot of our drivers are actual real life drivers as well.
Okay, cool.
So we don't want things to clash. So usually it's beginning of the year. So January is when we start, and we'll go try and do it every other week.
Oh, okay. So your season finishes just as like the big season start sort of thing.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so if I was a pro driver, that would tempt me into just some form of competition. That feeling obviously is like hard to replicate when you're just messing around with your mates. So interesting. Maybe you'll have to let me know when one is, and I'll hop in the stream and check it out and see what it's like. I just love drifting, man. Does that make sense? I just love drifting. So the fact that there's all these people that are passionate about it that may not be able to afford a drift car or live too far away from tracks like anyone south of London does, like really, like it's unless you go down to Pembury, if you're on that side of the country. Basically, where I live is like
and me as well.
It's like there's nothing, and then everything is either down, left, or up, and it's very irritating. But we have to just do what we can, right? So you've also
I'd say for virtual drifting, whatever you want to do, Assetto Corsa is pretty easy to run. It was made in 2014, so if your computer is like a decade old, it'll probably still run it as long as it's not complete poo. Get Content Manager, join the Virtual Drift Championship Discord, get some help, get probably one of the easy street pack cars to drive, and there's loads of tracks you can try out, just anything that you can get your hands on, and just get into it. I'd say people think that they need to get like the latest direct drive wheel and all this jazz and loads of setup. You don't need that. My wheels are Thrustmaster bog standard. It's a Thrustmaster TX. It still gets me by 10 years later. It's still fine. You don't need to go crazy, and you can have so much fun. There's so many great communities out there. There's loads of discords and stuff that everyone's joining up and doing, and you can get loads of really cool cars and drive whatever you want. It's amazing, really, when you could do all that.
Yeah, it's definitely addicting downloading the cars as well. I've got a set of course and I barely play it, and my computer is full of downloaded cars that I've gone online.
They take up a lot of space as well.
Race department, is it? I signed up and paid for that just so I can download the better car. It's very addictive. I can completely see how people get carried away with it. But no, cheers for letting us know stuff about that. Like I said, it's very interesting to me, but it's just I think because I know how much time it needs to kind of be dedicated to it to get anywhere mildly good. I already have a lot of hobbies.
You do need to put your time in.
I already stretch myself too thin, and I also am very addicted to a shooter game that takes a lot of my time as well. And
You've got more time in that than I have as a course.
I'm deep. I'm deep, man, and I still suck, and it hurts my soul. But I love it, and who knows? Maybe one day I'll get some Escape from Tarkov creators on, and we can do like a PC gaming freaking podcast.
You're talking to them while you're playing Tarkov.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Double up
Like
the time.
I'd be dying so often. I think it'd be embarrassing for people to see. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. The other thing you've been involved in was Ultimate Drift over in Brazil. Am I right in saying it was
I
Brazil?
did
So
a
you
couple
did
of rounds for them, yeah. They
and
were,
you were properly judging in real life type thing.
yeah. So it was, and I had like a really good setup with 6 camera views and everything. It was pretty cool. But yeah, they had a bit of an issue where they needed some judges pretty last minute. So I did a couple of rounds for them, just helping out. That was interesting. It was there's some interesting organisation going on in Brazil.
Right.
But yeah, it was good fun, and it was also interesting to judge more like a Formula D style, whereas everything I've done before was much more based on Drift Masters, which I prefer. Yeah, the Formula D style was a bit different. With the like, I had to judge like a particular thing when I was judging qualifying,
Right.
and I was doing line, and then also they were very keen on doing protests and stuff like that as well. So it was constant battle, like hearing protests going on, trying to understand what was going on because everything's going on in Portuguese.
Yeah.
And then they're sending the next run at the same time. So
Oh
like,
no!
What's going on?
So when they were protesting out there, did they have to pay any money to the championship to protest, or were they
No,
free
I don't.
protests?
No.
That's where they went wrong. You need to charge them for that shit.
It was bedlam out there. There was one time where I think someone lost a battle and his dad hopped on a little mini moped thing and drove across the track onto the grass in front of the judges' stand and started shouting at the judges when they were about to send another run. I mean, imagine that happening anywhere else. It's madness. But the thing I really admire, about Brazil is their passion. Like the amount of passion and drive that they have for doing drifting, and the support that they have, and the way that their family gets into it and everything like that. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's drifting is a very weird thing because I feel like it just gets you. I feel like it's like what's the right word? It's a hobby that becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I can see
I think
behind
that's
you,
something
you've
that,
got like steering wheel up, you've got fascias of wheels, you got a shirts tucked in, banner. Like it's like you look around me. I've got Nakamura's car on here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
you gotta have it all there. Yeah.
I've got a signed Valino flag in there from a Japanese D1 driver. Like I've got a lot of drift stuff just around, and like I want to, once I redo my house a little bit, have like a couple of nice canvases of me drifting.
Have I got any more here? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So like I've got like
do.
I want to get like some canvases made of me drifting and stuff because, and I'm in here in my computer I've got a Takumi 86 from Initial D.
Oh, I've got a little model like this.
Yeah. Oh, it's a slightly bigger one. It's actually in my computer though, so I can't get it out.
Oh, is it? Yeah. That's a little model of my car.
Yeah, your Carina that we'll talk about in a little bit because they've gone crazy in value as well. But what was it like drifting, like judging real drifting though? Was it fun? Like, did you enjoy that aspect of it, or was it more stressful having real humans involved that come up to you and shout? Like,
no, the only stressful thing for me was that it was a proper gig. So, you know, I wanted to do well. So I was like nervous for that. But otherwise, once I got into it and I was talking like judges talk shit about what's going on track and stuff while they're doing it, and it really breaks the ice. And but it's really the same sort of thing. It's, I suppose, the most difficult thing for me was judging something that wasn't so close, because in VDC, like I was saying, like how everyone's really, really good. So you end up with battles where both drivers are good and you're splitting hairs. I find that easier to judge than if you had two guys who are actually not that great, kind of average drivers, and the gap's quite big.
And you got to pick a winner out of the two turds.
Yeah, so it's like who did worse when they both did bad? I mean, I don't want to sound really it sounds really horrible when I'm just a judge. Like it's like, oh, you do it then, kind of thing. But
yeah, of course.
You've got to try and come up with a decision and try and work out what you're going to base that on and do it critically and analytically. So that's more difficult than if like the only mistake was one of the drivers dropping a wheel.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, easy.
Well,
Yeah.
I've got a very special guest coming on within the next couple of weeks, Kevin O'Connell, the DMEC head judge. So I'll be interested to see, because I know he gets a lot of stick, man, but he is like in my opinion, the biggest drift championship in the world. And he is the head judge of it. So he's going to be in for a rollicking from somebody, right? Because someone's got to lose. Like
the Drift Masters guys, they really know what they're doing. I judged with David. Because I did Drift Masters virtual as well.
Okay,
I judged for that. So judging with him was a real eye opener. He was so good at picking things out during the battles and stuff. I mean, like I find that usually you kind of get a feeling for what the other judges are looking for, and you can look for the gaps in what they're looking at, and you sort of feed off each other for battles. And if you can fill the gap that the other guy's not looking at, then you get a really good picture, and you can start saying, oh, I saw that. Oh, I think he dropped one tire. No. And then he goes, no, it was definitely two. And you look at it back and it's like, oh yeah, it was two. David was really good with that. Really, really enjoyed judging with him.
Yeah, cool guy. And then we've also got Big Vern, who's the henchest man I've ever seen in DMEC. Yeah. He's great, man. Maybe one day I can get him on chat, but he is the busiest man in drifting. He is always away drifting, like judging drifting and all around the world. It's crazy what that man gets up to. I see you've got the Nori Yaro hoodie on.
I do.
Are you a fan of any other YouTube drifters, like any channels that we may not know about? Because I know there's quite a few coming out of Ebisu nowadays. People that you probably know and some that I probably don't. And I just wondered, like, what's your take on it? You've been involved in drifting for a long time. Do you see YouTube as like a benefit to the sport, or do you feel like maybe it's a negative? I don't want to flag anybody off, but like, I'm just interested.
There's a lot of benefits. There's probably some negatives where you get trends that are probably not in the spirit. But like I really like Nori Yaro. I bought this off him when I was in Japan. He's probably the best YouTuber to follow for how it goes on in Japan.
He's also a lovely man, by the way. I met him at Ebisu, and I thought I thought he's not going to want to stand and chat for a while. I just want to say hello. You know, it's like I'm like one of them people that, like I said, I don't like wasting people's time. So I'm like, I like just saying, hi, my name's Adam. I do this thing. I really enjoy what you're doing. I hope you keep it up. Like, I just want to spread the love. And he was like, what else are you doing while you're over here? And I was like, well, last time I was here, I got to go on the Kanjo, so I'm just kind of experiencing the drift stuff now. And he was like fascinated. He was like, what, you got in with the Kanjo? I was like, yeah. So I told him like the history that I have with those guys and how I got access to it. And he was really like intrigued about that. And then a few months later, someone mentioned me on his stream, and he was like, oh yeah, I met him at Ebisu. And then he got up my whole YouTube channel on his stream and like was showing him the Kanjo videos. And I was like, but this guy doesn't have to do any of this. Like, does that make sense? Like, he can just be like,
Alexa's really genuine.
Because I know a lot of big YouTubers. I know a lot of them personally, big YouTubers that pretend they don't know other people because they don't want to give them clout off of it. And, you know, that bollocks like that, you know, they can be the only person that's being successful type shit. Whereas like, I hate that. I'm like, you got to bring everyone up with you, because otherwise you're the lone person at the top that everyone wants to rip down. Whereas
that's the thing is that Alexi is just like the rest of us. He went over there out of passion. He'd read the magazines. He'd been all about that. He just got in a lot earlier than most people. But he's just one of us at the end of the day.
Yeah, lovely guy.
For other people, I watch, there's a little channel that I don't know if a lot of people have heard of. It's called No Plans Co.
I've not heard of that, no.
And he just shoots beautiful cinematic sort of videos of stuff that goes on in Japan. He doesn't release stuff like every week and everything like that. He's not like,
just subscribe to him just there.
Oh my god, his videos are just, they're like car porn.
Unbelievable. They look super crisp quality. Wow, what does he film on? That is unreal.
But it's like really nice, really good videos. I really love his videos.
I'm gonna give a shout out to one as well, but I've got to remember how you spell it. Elator.
No Plans Co. Oh, Elator.
How do you say
Elator?
There it is. It is just Elator. Eletor. He's got 100,000 subscribers now. But like his videos, and he's a lovely man as well. I've chatted to him quite a lot on Instagram.
Does the final bout stuff.
He does so many fantastic drift videos where it's no talking. It's not a vlog. These are cinematic pieces of art that can be 2 hours long sometimes. So
mate, the best thing with Elator videos, you get your mates round, you're all having
this
a pizza, you stick it on the telly for 3 hours.
Yeah. Get the Elator on in the background. This is what
vibes.
we do as well. If you're getting drunk or high or whatever the fuck you guys are doing, having pizza, just chilling, catching up, chatting, boy or girls night, you know, friends round, whatever. Even a barbecue, the music he uses is so good. The music is so chill. And like the shots are amazing, and he leaves the sound of the cars in a lot as well. So like, it's just
Pure
that beautiful.
vibes.
Yeah, it's really great. So you chuck the video on, and they're all fantastic, and they're all cool. Like, but it's like I'm reading his titles now: competitive drifting, but it looks cool and sounds good. Like they're just simple. Like the best drift video to play when your friends are over. 106,000 views. I love it. I think there's some great YouTube channels that they capture the spirit of drifting. And I know I've done the vlog stuff. I get it. Like I've kind of used my YouTube to document just my life with cars. I always thought it'd be interesting to look back when I'm older and look back at what I was doing and cringe myself out at some of the stuff, you know, just laugh. But I'm glad I have done it. But I wish I was a filmmaker. I always have felt that. I wish I didn't have to put myself on and cringe people out and do all that shite. I just think there's some beautiful videos out there that can get you hooked on drifting where you haven't got to put up with some unbearable donkey like me that's talking, you know, around it.
Do you ever tune into Shirts Tucked In on YouTube?
I haven't really watched his YouTube channel. No, I read his like blogs and stuff that he posts up.
Shirts Tucked In. He's been posting some awesome footage. It's mostly just in car, just him driving.
Perfect. That's like my favorite sort of thing. Like, I was always even considering making a driving only channel, like no talking. So because I've got all of my footage still, and I was like, I could just post up in-car footage from my first drift day, my second drift day, and just post them like that, right? Because I think I've got to the point of YouTube where I don't like vlogging. Like, I hate holding the camera like this. Like, it's normally when you're there at drift day, I'm like, Ed, will you hold the camera for me? Like, do you know what I mean? Can you hold the camera so I can talk to the camera instead of talking? Like, I hate vlogging, right? So like, that's just something that's come over the years. But for me, I think drifting has done really good through YouTube. I think like places like YouTube, Instagram, where you can grow your own brands as such. Because obviously, L's the MFG. That he's always the go-to because I think he's probably been the most successful out of all of like all the boys that are just doing it. He's been one of the most successful. But I think it's because he's really into it as well. I think that at the beginning, a lot of people maybe looked at him like, oh, he's just doing this for the views or whatever. Of course he is. That's what YouTubers do. They do stuff for the views, right? But
once you start becoming like dependent on it, that's your thing. Then like, what else are you gonna do?
But he's also really freaking into drifting. Like, if you ever have a conversation with Adam about anything, he will talk about cars, car specs, setups. Why would they run this, do that? And that's something I find really interesting about him. He's really into it. You know, it just so happens that he's got really famous doing it as well. Like, And I feel like maybe there's a lot of people that do only try to get into drifting to become the next version of him, which I also can understand, but I don't think it's ever going to be easy. Like, I think even Matt Armstrong gave drifting a go, didn't he? And he's like, Armstrong drifting. He's like the biggest UK car YouTuber now. Like, sorry, burps, that's disgusting. By a country mile. Like, he's the biggest car YouTuber, in my opinion. Like, he's getting 2.5 million views a fucking video, dude.
Yeah, well, I think Jimmy Broadbent did a thing with Yogi. Did you see that?
Oh, he did he? No, I didn't. No.
Jimmy Broadbent did that, and I'm not sure how much views that got, but
I'm just looking at. I tell you what, Matt Armstrong blows my mind how successful he's been. Like 7.6 million views on a video of here buying him a wrecked Audi. Mate, he got it locked, bro. But he had a GT86, didn't he? And I don't know, did he do a drift day or anything, or did he post that on his second channel? Like, I'll be honest, I don't really watch much car YouTube. I just don't. I'm
just looking through my list to see if there's anyone else that I can shout out for people to check out. Like, I said like Shout Rogue earlier. I'm not sure if he uploads anymore, but even just go back and look at his old videos of him driving his JZX around Nico circuit. Amazing. Another one that's dead, but probably worth going back and watching is Auto Factory Realize.
Okay.
Those are dudes that did like Final Bout and stuff out in America.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They did funny vlogs of them mucking about with their cars. There's who else have I got? There was someone else that I saw just here.
So while you're looking, I'm just going to talk Matt Armstrong. I've looked on his channel and he's just put. He's got a second channel.
and he's got rebuilding a wrecked GT86, then giving it away. But I'm pretty sure he went to a Santa Pod drift day. I wonder if it's in that video that he goes to that, because I'm pretty sure he did go drifting. How is the most replayed part of his video the advert? That's how much selling power he has. The most replayed part of his advert is the start of his videos, the start of his advert. That is nuts.
Oh yeah, there's another one. Hey man Robbie. It's Robbie Nishida.
Oh yeah,
His,
Robbie
his
Nishida.
channel. He's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good
I
to
subscribed to
watch.
him already. Yeah, I subscribed to him already. He's great.
And do you know Kane?
Yeah. High chance.
Kane Launder.
High chance. Yeah, he's awesome because he drifts with his dad, and I think that's such a cool thing. You know what I mean? My dad has zero interest in learning to drift. He's like,
imagine your dad coming out, and he went to Ebisu with his dad.
Yeah,
and they
both got
had
a silver chaser,
there.
didn't he? Yeah. So
friggin' epic.
Yeah, this would be something that I'd love to be able to do with my kid. Like, if I ever had children, like this would be like, I'd like to be that dad. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is so cool. But
imagine.
There's a lot of good on YouTube, but sometimes they don't get the views. Like, that's the thing. Like, a lot of the more realistic stuff that isn't crap it is lower view channels that you won't see, purely because, you know, they're not posting every day. They're not doing all the clickbait stuff you have to do. They don't know how to do thumbnails properly. They don't know how to do titles properly, how to work the algorithm. But it doesn't mean they're bad at all.
There's another one from Ebisu is Milky Diamonds.
Milky Diamonds. I was going to mention him.
Did you meet him?
I met him very briefly, but he obviously wouldn't know who I was or anything like that. But I follow him on Instagram and all the rest of it. It's cool just to see, because I think when I went over there, him and his group, they had like a beautiful grey JZX 100 with fluorescent yellow wheels. I don't know if you remember that. It just stands out in my head because that was fucking nice, man. I remember seeing that going.
Yeah, Dan was a baller. He's got an import company in New Zealand as well.
Oh, cool.
So cool. I think he at one time they bought a JZX and like street drove it. So they had a JZX that they were driving.
That was the one.
I'm
pretty sure that was the JZX.
The grey one was on track. They had a white one on the street.
I definitely remember seeing the grey one driving on the road on like I had pulled up in the Subaru on the way in the morning. I think I just like sort my cameras out because I wanted to vlog going in the gates and that. And they all drove past me, and I was just like,
"That's baller."
Yeah, I was like, "Dude, that fucking thing is." I remember just seeing it, going, "Man, I wish I had invested in Bitcoin or something." Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and like just so I could enjoy the fruits of this world sometimes a bit more than I have a good life, man. I can't ever slag it off, but you always want more, right? You look at stuff and you're like, "Man, I'd love to do that." That was so cool. But not in Japan. But over in where we live, the drift scene's weird now. Sorry, give me 1 second, man. Sorry, give me 1 second. So yeah, so we have done some drift days together. They're mainly up in Scotland or Anglesey, which are both equally as billion miles away from where I live, and yourself. But they're both good tracks. Anglesey, Drift Matsuri, amazing event. Gutted I'm missing it this year. Are you going to be there?
Probably not. No.
I'm missing this year because I'm going to be in America, which is a shame. My first one I missed in a long time, which really sucks. And then we've got the Dory Fest. The Dory Fest. Martin will punch me for calling it the Dory Fest. Dory Fest UK, like Dory Fest. I'm just going to call it Dory Fest. It's an amazing event, which kind of recreated vibes of drift days that I haven't felt for about 4 or 5 years. Very relaxed, fun, car selected event where you can't just turn up in a bag of shit and do your first drift day. And I know that sounds like an elitist type thing, but when you're going 10.5 hours to drive your car, I feel like one of the most important things for me is, you know, you get to turn up and drive with a certain level of driver, because we all want to get better. And this is something that people hit me up for and go, "Oh, I'm doing my first drift day. Do you think I should go to Drift Matsuri?" And I always feel like an arsehole saying, "I don't think you should try. I don't think you should go to Drift Matsuri," because I always try and save the tickets for the boys. Do you know what I mean? Like, with them ones, I'm like, man, like, so many people spend so much money building their cars every year,
and it's just first come first serve,
and it is a first come first serve there. And I think that's also one of the good things about Drift Matsuri, is that anyone can go. But on a
as long as you're
personal,
refreshing the page.
yeah, personal selfish part, I kind of just want the lads to go that can't drift anywhere else, like, because we are so limited with what we do. And I feel like there's better places to learn to drift than on a fourth gear entry. Like, you know, there's better places. Santa Pod is very
with big tires around the outside that you could just smash.
Guarantee wrecked car type thing. Yeah. So I've had a couple of young ladies that want to get into drifting, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go drift Mount Zuri." I'm like, just go get an old BMW or MX-5 and go Santa Pod. It's cheaper. It's got better ways to learn to drift, in my opinion. I feel like the Matsuri should be the
or T-side.
T-side with Yogi.
T-side's not too far for you.
Yeah, you could always have lessons with Yogi. You don't even need your own car then. Science of Drifting does excellent beginner lessons where you don't need your own car. He gives you a car to use.
You don't even need a driver's license to do that.
And it's so much fun. Do it. Yeah, and it's so much fun. And I just feel like, I think that them big drift days can be quite daunting. You turn up and people are there in their pro spec cars, and you're like, would you know, some people have no fear, I know. And I don't know. I just feel like them days should be ones that maybe you just go along and watch. Go along as a spectator and be like, well, I want to be able to drive at this level one day. Where do I need to go and practice?
Don't ask the drivers. Passenger. I took so many people out at Dory Fest.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about the paid passenger thing. I didn't do any of that. I was just taking people out. But don't tell passenger people. But yeah, it's so much fun. I'd say also keep an eye out for the workshop days at Teesside. That is Seat Time City.
Are they? Yeah. God. Yeah. What's a workshop day? Fill me in. I don't know about these.
Workshop day is one that Yogi puts on, where basically there's meant to be someone there giving you a bit of tuition as well. What in reality that is less cars and someone stood on the start line giving you a couple of pointers every now and then.
Okay,
but
cool.
If you can drive, they just let you drive.
And do you go to these?
I've done one of them, and the whole afternoon I had the track to myself. Oh. It was crazy.
Because I actually spoke to Yogi the other day because he messaged me about driving at Go Japan, Brands Hatch, that I think you were at, right?
Just did that yesterday.
Yeah. So he'd asked me to come along. My car's broken at the moment, so I just couldn't. Plus, it was Arsenal Tottenham yesterday, and being a big Arsenal fan, there's no bigger game. I had to turn
too
down.
Many passions in life.
I got offered by a very nice young lady to go to Barcelona for the weekend, and I said, I got tickets to Arsenal Tottenham. I'm sorry.
Arsenal Tottenham.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry. Like, she was very, very moody, and I just said, well, that sucks to be you, mate. I've got Arsenal Tottenham tickets. So I have one in Barcelona. I was like, I'm not missing that game for nothing. So that sounds interesting. I actually hit him up, and he was like, what, do you want to come on one of the workshop days? There's a little secret I'm going to tell you. I'm going to probably buy another car in December when I'm back from these next 2 months of working as a treat to myself, but also so I can put some real love, money, and effort into my S15. And it means that all I have to do is buy some coilovers and a lock kit for this other car and take the ABS out, and all my wheels will fit it, blah, 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 blah. And I can do the SV properly and still drift in between. So
nice.
I hit Yogi up saying, can I come along and drive with you at some events? Because I love Yogi. He's such a... He is the sort of man that I would want people that aren't into drifting to meet first when they get into drifting. Because his
spirit for it is amazing.
He loves it so much. He just loves it. And like, he teaches it, and although when he was doing that finger thing for me, it was more distracting for me. I'm sure it's so great for other people, but like, he was trying to get some bad habits out of my system, but I was just like, just let me exist with them, and everything's better that way.
I think there's a lot of people that criticize how he teaches people and his opinions on like handbrake entries and stuff like that. And fair enough, you could have your different ways of doing it, but you cannot knock the guy for his passion and dedication to drifting. I don't know anyone personally in the UK that's put that much effort and passion into it and has made something of it as he has.
Science of drifting.
He's an asset.
Science of drifting. He's a lovely man. I'm going to definitely go give him a big hug soon and have a catch up and do some skids with him, hopefully. It'll probably be in the new car, which when I get it, if I do get one, I've got to decide yet. I don't know. I might spend all the money just on the S15 and send it up to SB Bagsy's place and see if they'll just fix it for me. I've hit up Sam and Ian that work in the workshop, and they're like, yeah, we can do it. Like, so.
Yeah, I know Sam. I used to do VDC with Sam.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Sam's a good kid. He's actually DM'd me while we were chatting about my car because I put up some stuff about the diff and that. So what was your thoughts on Dory Fest, by the way? Because it was great, right? Like, it was just a good
fantastic. Vibe. What an event.
Just amazing. A great vibe.
It's definitely like, I call it the final bout of the UK. Because
So
it's
what
the thing that everyone wants to go to. And
I
be a
learned
part
something
of.
about final bouts. You know, that's a team event. You
Yes,
can't, like
yeah,
me
yeah.
and you couldn't just go. Like you
No.
have to be in a team to get. And I found that
And they
really
do
interesting.
qualification rounds around the
It's
country.
cool, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw that the Juice Box boys recently went over and watched it, and it looked awesome. And it's definitely on my list of things to go and spectate one day.
Same.
Like
I
it
really want
looks
to go see
so
that.
good. And I think that over the next few years, Dory Fest will become that for other people looking in at the UK scene, because we don't have enough drift days. I'm putting it out there. We don't have enough drift days, full stop. So having one such as Dory Fest that can generate as much interest as it has, Martin's done a great job, because, and I spoke to him about this as well, because I said I think that you should. So Martin's too nice, right? He's a big, scary, bald Scottish bloke, but he's the nicest man in the world. And I sat with him and chatted, and he was like, I hope the event's gone good. I was like, man, it's been amazing, but you need to like earn money out of this, man. The amount of time, effort, and money you're putting in. He was like, I don't want to earn money out of this. I just want to give the boys and the girls somewhere to drift. And I was like, that's admirable, but you need to earn money out of this, my man.
It needs to grow, yeah.
You need to be able to like put some money back in your pocket to make this effort worthwhile, because it is stressful. It is a lot of effort. And I feel like Dory Fest could be the event that brings drifting to proper racetracks again in the UK. Because I think the way he does it, the way he selects the people, the cars that come, it's very good representation of drifting in England. And I had a lot of seat time out there, to the point where I blew a gearbox up. And then Jonathan, who I'd never met before, turned up to my pit area and was like, I've got a gearbox if you want to buy it off me. And then another guy just turned up and went, I'll fit it for you. Jamie just turned up and went, I'll fit it for you. And I was like, how much money do you want? He was like, a t-shirt. I was like, what? I was like, I'll give you more than one t-shirt, my man, if you chuck this thing in. And like, I really hope that Dory Fest becomes a regular thing. I know they've just had Dory Fest 2.5 that I couldn't get up to. That was just more of a private event, like just for people to get more seat time, basically, because that's what we're missing in England and Scotland and Wales is regular drift events. We had it at Rockingham, RIP Rockingham. When Sweeps had his Rockingham days, they're almost like a myth now, you know, like the Rockingham days, man.
I missed out by this much on the last Mayhem day there.
Oh, I was on that.
I was swapping the Beams engine. So the Beams engine I've got in my car now.
Yep.
I actually put it in an IS200 before that.
Oh, okay.
And it was literally, I was still doing the wiring for that. And I bought a ticket to that last Mayhem day, and I didn't quite make it.
Man, I'm telling you now, when I look back at them events, I think when you're living them, you know they're a good time, right? But you're living on adrenaline at most drift days. You're just like, wow, you're peaking. You're like, oh, this is fucking amazing. Oh, this is so good. Blah, blah, blah. But now I look back with the memories, and I look back at my videos. I'm so glad I vlogged these. Do you know what I mean? Because you can see how happy I am in them. And like, I look back and all the people that were there, and like, it literally just felt, and I said this a million times, it felt like you were just going to the skate park. Does that make sense? You always would know someone.
Totally get that.
I'd go on my own. I'd just rock up on my own, and I'd see like Low Origin or the Slip Wheel guys or some other guy or Lewis Noakes or, you know, people that I never would ever have met before, and they became my friends. And like, some of them are still my best mates to this day that I met at them days. And then you're going out and you get so much seat time, and I learned so much at them events. Like,
it's like did you skate or BMX?
Skateboard, yeah.
Isn't it the same thing as when you're at the skate park and it doesn't matter who it is, if there's someone struggling with something, like they finally land a kickflip, everyone there is happy for them. Everyone's trying to get them to do it. There's always a sense of camaraderie that you get in skate parks and stuff like that, which I think is so replicated in the pits at Drift Day.
100%. 100%.
I had exactly the same experience yesterday with Al Clark. I was doing the Go Japan thing. Al Clark was there, and I was like, "Who is Al Clark?"
I love Al Clark.
And like, the first time I'd seen his car properly up close and heard it, oh my god, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Good job with that car. And you know, I was just chatting with him about nerdy Japan shit, and I was telling him about like where to get stuff from Japan, like places you could buy stuff through, and we were just chatting like we'd known each other for a while.
Al Clark, by the way, I just want to say,
he's such a good dude.
He is one of my favorite people I've ever met and become friends with through cars. I can't even really remember how we started. Really,
how you came first with him, yeah.
All I remember is I always followed him because he's fucking gargantuous in the real life car world, right? He is like a big Donny when it
He
comes
does
to filmmaking.
serious shit.
Yeah.
Serious shit.
Anyone listening, you will have seen one of Al Clark's videos without even knowing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and get him on here one day. Actually, I need to hit him up because the reason I actually realized like that I might be able to chat to him was I posted up going, "Should I bring back my podcast?" This is 2 or 3 years ago, like, and he replied, "Yes," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "You listen to him?" He was like, "I love him, man." I was like, "What?" Like, Al Clark? And then he was like, "I like all your videos. I like your attitude and stuff." And like, he basically was the guy because I did a video a while back. Start at like end of the year or start of the year, basically just going, I can't believe I've never been Nürburgring. I'd love to go one day. I don't really have the bottle to go on my own and that. And he literally texted me and he was like, "You're coming with me. Book on this day. And we're going to book these hotels and we're just going to go." And I was like, okay. Yeah. So I booked on this track day with him. And then literally I was like, "Is anybody else coming?" He went, "That's going to be me and you." I was like, "What?" And I had like this awesome holiday with one of my idols. Like, I look up to Al Clark. And not only is he amazing, he's just fucks me off how good he is at everything. He's not only amazing at building cars, he's amazing at driving, drifting. He's amazing at. I remember being at the My Hand days, watching him in the 86, throwing it down the wall. I was just like, "This guy's fucking crazy, man."
I found out yesterday his 86 doesn't have a handbrake.
It's and then
he's not.
And then I was like, I knew he was like one of the most talented filmmakers ever, like when it comes to car shit. Amazing. And then he went, "Yeah, we'll go Nürburgring," and I knew nothing of him in grip cars. And he was like, "Here, come and do your first lap with me. I'll take you out in this rented Seat thing," because his Porsche broke. And he scared the fucking daylights out of me to the point where I was like sweating cold and I was shaking. And then the end of the video, I'm literally, you can see, because I feel so comfortable with him. I can be my genuine self. And he was like, "How did you find that?" And I was like, "I am so glad this is over." Like, I was like, having a mild panic attack. And I literally got out of the car and I was like, "How is this guy amazing at this as well?" I found out he like did months when he was younger, just camping in a field, paying like €1 a night just to stay next to the Nürburgring in a tent in his MX-5, and he did thousands of laps. And I was just like, man, this is why I look up to him, because he lives a life that I want to live. Like, I think he's awesome, and like I feel like so special that I got that little bit of time with him where we got to just be bros for a weekend and just talk car shit and, you know, just all that stuff. And like
yesterday, he's the reason I got to finish the day all the way to the end, because I was running out of tires. He gave me a pair of tires
because he's the best.
He's like, "Keep driving, man." Yeah. He was like, my car can't do the rest of the day. He was like, his car was like breathing oil, like really bad. So he had to call it a day. And he was just like, "I've got a spare pair of tires, go out more." And I was like, "Okay." And I did another 8 sessions.
I love Al Clark so much. I could talk a whole podcast on just how much I love Al Clark. I think that's how much I like.
We could both preach.
I could fanboy over Al Clark for hours, but I'd have to stop my Al Clarkness right there and have him on one day and just tell him how much I love him to his face, because I think he's got a lot to talk about, and
he's probably got some real stories, man. Amazing.
Yeah. He's told me just a few that just were amazing, and he introduced me to lots of cool people at the Nürburgring, and it's just cool, man. It's just a cool guy, you know. Like, there's not many of them. I think a lot of the time you meet people, and you're like, that guy seemed cool online, but he was a fucking dick. But like, he's just like, he just keeps himself to himself online, and he's just a legit dude, and like, yeah, he's great. So the last thing I really want to touch on this evening with you, because I need to walk the dog still and it's getting dark. And it's been a great chat so far. I think we're over an hour, which is awesome.
Really?
The price of Japanese vehicles. It's getting kind of crazy, right? I don't think they're all selling for what people are putting them up for now. I'm not going to lie. But from your... I just hit puberty, did you hear? So from your point of view, with where you are, because you've got quite a special little Japanese car. I've got a little collection of weird and wonderful Japanese toys. What do you think? Where do you think this is stemming from? Like, because I've got my ideas, so I just want to see if they align with what you think, or...
I think it's just the... I think there was a generation of us, like me and you, who got into it at an early age, and because there was definitely a time frame. If you're a certain age and you had a PlayStation 2, you were going to be into Japanese cars.
Yeah, Gran Turismo and Need for Speed and all that sort of shit.
Yeah. a huge, because like if you look
Midnight
at the
Club.
generation above us, they're all into Fords and shit. They don't like Japanese cars. So there's definitely a thing there. And then because everyone got into that, and because our generation then kicked everything off with the internet, we made them all popular on the internet. And then everyone else thought they were good because we were all doing cool shit with them. And so everyone's getting into it. Supply and demand, prices go up.
So one thing that I've thought about recently as well, because I know a lot of people blame America with their 25-year law, and I'm sure that has something to do with the price going up because all of a sudden you've got, I mean, how many people are in America?
Look at the prices that happened with R32s. That was the big one.
Let's figure this out real quick. 1.9 million people. That's a lot of people, man. So that's that. There's going to be, even if like 1% of them people want a Japanese car, that's 3 million people we're now fighting that was not there before, right? So I get why some of the prices are going up from that instance, but I also believe car manufacturers are to blame because most of the cars they make now are fucking insanely expensive. Civic Type R's are 50 grand now.
Yeah.
At 50 for a Civic. A Golf R, 45 up, is it? For a Golf R now, if you want a hot Golf. Like a Civic Type R, an EP3 when I was 17 was like a £21,000 brand new car. 22, 23 grand maybe with aircon. It made it 24 grand or something like that. But like you could go and PC or HP hire purchase, finance one of them for over 5 years, and it would be a normal amount of money to lose every month to eventually own this cool thing at the end of it. Nowadays, prices of cars are insane anyway, brand new, and cars just genuinely kind of fucking suck, right? They don't have soul or spirit anymore. Like, you could get in a Civic Type R. I went in that new Civic Type R around Nürburgring, and it was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it was fast, load of technology, but I could have been in a fucking Golf R for all I knew.
You can't feel it the same, right?
You take the fucking badges off of the cars, and they all fucking make the same shitty noises when they change gear. They all fucking go really fast. Yeah, it's awful. And like, I look back, and then I'm looking at like, right, if I needed a 4-door saloon car, what would I look at? I'd be just one car, be an M3 4-door.
Yeah.
But then even that, I'd probably look at E92. I would not look at an F80 or nothing like that. I'd be like, I like the E92 the most, I think. Like, you know, that's pretty cool. Or it'd be one of them Alfa Romeos. Because I feel like Alfa have still got that fuck you attitude of like, we know everything needs to go fast, but we're going to stick with being Alfa Romeo, so everything's just going to break all the time, and it's going to have some spirit, though.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I'd also probably be like, well, how much are JZX 100s going for? What about JZX 110?
Like,
I mean, maybe I'll get one of them.
JZX here, it's like 20 grand or something.
20 grand. I've seen the prices are falling, though, because I think a lot of people are struggling now. The government is not making it easy to live here anymore. It's a very expensive place to live. And it's in general, it's just fucking expensive to exist anymore. And I think that you've got that some of what you said, supply and demand, America entering the frame, and all of them people wanting it. Rappers are all of a sudden looking back at the Japanese stuff going, hey, them things are cool now. I mean, yeah, Sam Smith. Ollie Evans was drifting in a Sam Smith video recently. Like, Sam Smith now likes drifting. What is going on? And it's kind of become this like outlawy cool thing. And, you know, the cars are just, because so many people like us fucking destroyed them a lot back in the day. You know, didn't treat them with as much respect. It was funny to have a rotten S14 for 2 grand back in the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a funny thing. Like, they were crap. No one wanted them. And now all of a sudden, a rusty S14 is 10 grand. And then you got all the little people in the comments going, yeah, that's a really great value, because they're trying to bump their ones up for more money.
Yeah.
And I've seen S14s going for like, no, not S14, sorry. I saw an S15, and I don't want to, if the guy ever listens to this, I think your car is beautiful, man. But it's up for 40 grand. You give me 40 grand, I ain't going to buy an S15, no matter how nice it is. Like,
when I was buying cars, when I was first buying the cars, when I was first able to buy a car, my first car, a modified car lost its value compared to the standard one.
Absolutely.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and I mean, we can look back. We can probably reminisce about the good old days for hours. I mean, I paid 2 grand for my VTI EG6. Fuck knows what I'd get for that now. I wouldn't ever sell it. It's not something that I'm ever going to part with.
I feel sorry for anyone who's getting into it now.
But like you said earlier, the kids,
now.
yeah, the kids like Fords and that. They only like them because that's what they can fucking afford. A Fiesta ST is what, $6,000? Like my little Renault Clio I picked up, paid 5,400 for that. 200 brake horsepower, Recaro seats, Brembo brakes, mega. That was basically what a DC5 was, like back in the day. But I mean, you'd never get one for $5,000, but like an okay one was like £7,000 to £8,000. Do you know what I mean? Like I paid 10 for like a pristine one. Now they're just the entry level to Japanese cars is so much fucking money. And
I think also it's the how known they are as well. I think there's still a couple of Japanese models that if you get into it enough, you're enough of a nerd, you can still find some cheap ones.
Yeah.
But you've got to be into that. It's not.
You got to go down the rabbit hole, right? You got to go down the rabbit hole.
Like my car is a weird car that people hadn't heard of. There's only 4 of them in the UK, and it was cheap at the time when I bought it. But like there's the one dude who had one before me. My car was the second one in the UK. He sold his recently for like 23 grand. I'm like, oh, cool. My car's tripled in value.
Oh my God.
Like, what the hell? It's mental.
I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there for anybody that wants to get into Japanese cars, any drifting, because I'm not going to put you off. I don't care what you do. Like, I couldn't care if you come up to me and said, Adam, I've just bought my dream car, and showed me it was a fucking Robin Reliant. I'd be like, do you know what? If it's your dream car, man, dope. I love that. I love that you've got what you want. But if you're looking at buying like an S15 or an S14 or anything and thinking that this is going to be an easy to maintain, or even an R32 GTR, because I see they're kind of like show cars now, right? Like they're like people buy them to flex on Instagram like they'd buy an old Rolex. They're like one of them type, hey, look at me, I've got this cool thing that you can't afford. But if you're coming from a very nice modern car to an old Japanese car that was owned by people like me 10 years ago when they were cheap, trust me, they were fixed cheap. They were not, they were expensive back then to maintain. And now they're still expensive even more expensive to maintain. So if you want one, for sure go into it. But I would definitely not recommend getting a loan to get a Japanese car, because you're going to need another loan on top of that to carry on maintaining it. My S15, if I gave the price breakdown over the last 6 years of every garage it's been to, all the work that's been done on it, all the work that has been charged for me but not done on it because people think they're better than they are, or all the parts we've had to go through, one of my drive shafts broke while we were in a garage, and we had to find 2 parts of drive shaft to put it back together. And like, my S15 is so much money to me, right? Like the thing owes me so much money, I can never sell it. People are like, oh, have you seen the price from they're going up? I'm like, even 40 grand don't cover what I'm in on this, anywhere near it, if I'm completely honest. And I've got to spend upwards of £6,500 now to get it to where I want it to be again. And that's just gearbox conversion. And as a drift car, it's amazing when it's going sideways and it works. It is freaking amazing. But that's because I've put the blood, the sweat, the tears, and the money into it to really have it as a thing that is viable to do. And even then, blows a gearbox. At Dory Fest, it's done 2 wheel bearings at Dory Fest. It's done the diff. The cups in the diff move like this now, and that needs a rebuild. And it's just like, I would definitely just recommend, if you want to get into drifting, do not go and spend 15, 20 grand on an S13. Go buy an old BMW and learn.
Or an MX-5 or something.
An MX-5 or just an IS200, just anything that goes sideways. You don't have to have the Instagrammy scene points. On the flip side, if you really want an S15, go and buy one, because you're probably going to love it. Like,
and also, if you have to get an S15, the sooner the better, because it's just going to get more expensive.
Yeah. So, and I have seen a lot up for sale that aren't selling. But I also feel like people forget they're a super niche thing. Even though there's a lot of people that want them now, there's not a lot of people that want to spend. I mean, the Dream Car giveaways gave away a yellow one that is amazing. Oh my God. It is a yellow S15. It is a spec car with all the good shit on it, right? Like, it is a beautiful car. It's now up for sale on eBay for £34,985. And
God,
do you know what else you could go buy for 35 grand?
A lot. You do a lot with that money.
A lot
with that.
That's a lot of money. You can go buy a freaking M2 manual and have 10 grand change. So I feel like I know the M2 doesn't have that special aura, but it's a fucking awesome car. So I feel like there's a lot of options out there. And if you really, like I said, if you really want one, fuck it, go for it, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm one of them dudes that probably will continuously until the day I die put way too much money into old Japanese cars and then be like,
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah, someone probably paid £2,500 for this and bent it around a lamppost once, and I'm now giving 20 grand for this thing. But you know, I have the cars that I dream of owning, AE86 being one of them. That's like a list of dream cars, even though it's a shit old 1.6 Toyota.
Yeah, but there's nothing like it though. There's something about 80s and early 90s Toyotas and the way they drive. I mean, that's why I got the car I got, because
you have a Toyota Carina, right? Carina,
yeah.
Carina.
AA63 for anyone who wants to know the chassis code.
Love it.
There's something about the way that Toyotas drive, especially from that era. That's why I wanted something like that.
I mean, I'm just looking here.
They're crazy, so good.
I'm looking here on eBay, and even the prices of AE86s look like they've come down recently. Because I know Strank, I'm not going to mention numbers, but he sold his for a lot of money, both of his, a lot of money. And this one is like wide, but it's got that N1 kit on it. It's got Equipo 1s on it, and it's up for 21,995. Now, to me,
I think they've sort of plateaued at that now.
Yeah, like it looks to me like, I mean, that shell for 2.5 grand is still for sale because it's never going to sell it. But like, there's a beautiful black edition one on there. I don't know if it's a genuine black edition, but it's a beautiful black AE86, 22,995. I mean, like that's probably where, I mean, maybe they'll go up a bit more than that, but I guess that'd be where I'd have to be comfortable spending for a good one. You know what I mean? And I'm nowhere near being able to do that, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at way more modern skid cars for that sort of money. But I think it's a very interesting conversation that I could probably talk for hours on once again. But people
have just got to just get into it as best they can. Like we were saying, MX-5, IS200, something cheap. The most important thing is that people take pride in what they do, so that they're not driving around like a yobbo.
Yeah.
You got to take some pride in it and want to be in it for the right reasons. That's the only thing. Exactly
that. And also, when you mention MX-5s, I just think of the Gripped Up team. They're awesome. Exactly. They are awesome. At Doryfest, I'm going to say it, I think they should have won the Tandem Award. They were the most fun to watch all weekend. Like, they were banging each other's doors the whole time in their little red MX-5s. And it literally, when I bought one, they messaged, like, one of the boys from messaged me. He was like, "Yo, that's awesome. Do you need me having blah, blah, blah?" And I was like, I just like these guys so much. I just like that they're having fun doing the thing that I'm passionate about as well, you know? And I guess that's all you can ask for. There is actually a very nice A86 on eBay for 16,995 that I've just seen, a booter on throttle bodies and the roll cage on it. I mean, the interior looks absolutely ass, but like, it's very nice. So I guess the prices are there to be had, right? Like, 15,755. Yeah, the prices are there to be had. Yeah, I think you just got to really want these things. I think that's kind of what I explain. I don't want to. What annoys me, and this is why I try not to be a dick when I'm saying these sort of things, but like when I try and say to people, like, only get one if you really want one. It's only so you don't buy one and then you hate it, and then you then make your whole personality about, I hate this thing, because I did that. I did that with 350Zs when I was younger. I bought something I didn't really want, and I hated it at the time, and then I just made it my whole personality that I hate this thing for a while, right? And now I borrowed Lewis's, my friend Lewis, come to a personal drift day in Birmingham with me when I went with the Bocker lot, and he's one of the Bockers like friend group, and I went with him, and he let me drive his 350Z, and I was like, these are fucking shit, mate. And this was up till like COVID, basically. I still had this opinion they were ass, and he was like, "Do you want to have a go in mine?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." And I had a go in it, and I come out and I was going, good. Like, what the fuck? My whole last 8 years has been me slagging these things off. This is awesome. Like, and I'm gonna be honest, that's the car I'm probably gonna buy in December, right? So like, I've spent 10 years hating these things for me to only go and buy one, and then I'm gonna look like a mug. So it's gonna be one of them things that it's just one of them things, man. I feel like if you really want something, you're gonna want it anyway, right? You're gonna, and it's like me with my diet. I'm trying to lose a bit of weight, but over the weekend, I really wanted a fucking Domino's. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice the calories this weekend, and I'm just going to smash a Domino's. And I felt great for it because I wanted that thing. Whereas I think if I was just binge eating at a Domino's every day, I'd feel bad about it. And I kind of look at like everything in moderation. And if you want a very expensive old Japanese car, just understand, like, you know, a lot of us have seen the prices of these, and I might have paid $2,000 for my Civic fucking 12 years ago.
You've got to be ready for the consequences. Like, I drive my Carina at tracks and go and drift it, and I understand that if I put it in a wall, it's over. Because if I want a brake light for my car, it's 400 quid, right? It's nuts, all right? If I want to go and do that, then I've got to understand what the consequences are and know that that's what happens. If I bend something, I'm never getting another one. Yeah. So, but it's cool. It's what I want to do. So.
Well, I feel exactly the same about my S15. And I speak about this a little bit whenever people ask as well. I always say, like, well, I want to keep what attracted me to this sport alive. Like, and for me, it was watching S bodies and AE86s skid around. That was what kind of like when I like went and watched pro drifting, I was like, that's kind of cool. And I like got into the pro drifting stuff first because I'd never thought I could do normal drifting. And then I got into that. But then when I saw the S bodies skid around, how low and sleek and beautiful they just look like that's what they're meant to do. And it hurts my soul when I walk around a car show and I see all these pristine ones, and I'm like, oh, bro, if I could just have that car.
They need to be doing a skid.
And I could do a fat skid in that, and it would look gangster. And like, imagine the photos. Like, yeah, they look cool parked in car parks and shows in under the lights and halls and stuff. But it would look even better going sideways, bellowing smoke out the back, having another one. In fact, Weaselworks posted their video at Dory Fest recently, and I watched it again at work today. And there's a clip of me chasing Josh from what's his Instagram name? From
the Juice Box.
Yeah. And in his orange one.
Josh W. Green.
Yes, Josh Green. Instagram. So I was chasing him, and it's in 4K HD of RS15s just going together, and it's like the best clip they could have got. I look so good in it. like I'm pretty sure they were the only two good runs I did that whole weekend, but they captured it. And I watched that, and I was like, well, that's the reason my S15 has to stay alive, because I want to show people this thing that I like doing. And
it was funny when they came up to me. I think there's a bit in their video of me sitting on one of my SSRs, and I was just changing my tires, and they were like, wait, are you skidding on those? They're really shiny. And I was like, yeah. You gotta look good. Like,
yeah, absolutely. It was like with my works. I had some people up looking around the cars, and one of them was like, I can't believe that you drift on. This was at one of my meets. Sorry, they were like, because I've got a huge chunk out of one of my work wheels, and they were like, I can't believe you drift on genuine works. I'm like, well, what else am I going to drift on?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, you can get reps. I'm like, no, that's not.
Well,
that's not the ethos I live by.
See the wheel that's in pieces there.
Yep.
Those are a pair of Hoshino wheels, which are like period correct proper wheels for my car. That particular pair were a shit size. They're like 7-inch wide, look terrible. And people say to me, you could have taken those and skidded on those as your spare wheels. I was like, but then my fitment wouldn't be good while I'm doing the skid. Are you stupid?
Yeah, I think a large part of drifting is style. And
you've got to have the pride in it. That's what I'm talking about. You've got to have that pride to represent yourself properly and look the part to do it. It's not about I'm not trying to gatekeep. It's not about that. It's about you having the right attitude and wanting to do the right thing. And I can't really put it into better words than that. But I think
you've nailed it, man. I think you nailed it. And like I said, I just want to keep what I love about what I've always been passionate about alive. Like, it'd be easy for me just to retire the S15 and get this 350Z and only skid that from now on.
It'd be a complete beater.
And it'd be fine. It'd be very reliable. It'd be great. It'd do a great skid. And they're good. They are good drift cars. Like, I have to hold my hands. And they can look cool as well. Like, I actually quite like them now. I've done a little bit of research on what kits to buy and all that sort of stuff. Because to me, I can't drift in a car that I hate. Like, I take the E36 I have, even though I think that still looks pretty cool. It's got an M Sport kit on it, style 66 wheels, even though it's a proper beater car. Like, I make sure it's on the good wheels and it's got the right kit. And I've ordered, like, I've got this whole M trim to put on it. Like, it's so ridiculous when